For number 6, we're still solving the system of equations by graphing. Remember, this hint in bold won't be on your test, so you'll just have to know when you're solving by graphing that you need to put your equations in slope-intercept form, which means you need to get the y by itself. So on number 6, neither one of these are in slope-intercept form yet. They're both in standard form. So we have to get the x or the y by itself. So in the first equation, we have x plus 3y equals 9. The first step in getting the y by itself is to get the x on the other side. So you can either move the x and remember to change its sign, or understand that you're subtracting x from both sides, which makes the x become negative. So whichever way you're accustomed to doing, moving and changing the sign or subtracting x, both get the same result. You're going to have a negative x on the right side. So now we have 3y equals, and I'm going to put the x in front because when we get it in slope-intercept form, we like the x to be our first term. So remember, it's a negative x. It was positive on the left, it's negative on the right, and the 9 didn't change sides, so it's still positive on the right side. Now we still don't have our y by itself because it has a 3 in front of it. So we know that that number next to a variable means they're being multiplied together. So to get rid of the 3, we need to undo multiplication by using division. Now when you divide, you have to divide every term. So when we divide this term by 3, we have to divide these two terms on the other side by 3 as well. So by doing so, we have y by itself. Now remember, the number in front of x is our slope. Well, before we divided by 3, we just had a negative sign in front of x. But remember, that's a negative 1. So when we divided by 3, we now have a fraction, a negative 1 over 3. That's our slope, negative 1/3. Our y-intercept is this number, 9 divided by 3, which is just 3. So now we have this in slope-intercept form. So we can use the number by itself, which is the y-intercept, to place our first point of our line. So y-intercept means go on the y-axis to 3 and place a point. Since our slope is negative, remember our line will be going downhill. Negative 1/3 means you can put the negative with the 1 in the numerator, or you can put the negative with the 3 in the denominator. You just can't put a negative with both of the parts of the fraction, or you made your fraction become positive, and it's supposed to be negative. So if you do negative 1/3, remember the top number is our rise, the bottom number is our run. So negative 1 rise means go down 1, positive 3 is a run, means go right 3. So we're going to go down 1, right 3, and place another point. We can continue going down 1 and right 3 just as long as we have room on our graph to do so. Remember, we could also do the reverse of that. Instead of going down 1, we can go up 1, and instead of going right 3, we can go left 3. So we can go up 1 and left 3 and still be on the same line. So up 1, left 3, up 1, left 3. So those are the points that I could fit on my grid for that first equation. You can go ahead and connect those with a line if you'd like, but to me it's easier to see the point they have in common if I wait to do that after I find that special point. So in the next equation, again, you're either going to have to move the x term to the other side and make it have the opposite sign. So it's positive here, it's got to be negative over here, or understand that you're subtracting 8x from both sides, which is why the 8x is negative on the other side. So either way, 8x is negative. So you have 3y now on the left side. Remember to put your x term first, so negative 8x. The 12 didn't move, so it's still negative on the right side. Now to get the y by itself, we're undoing multiplication by dividing every term by 3. So our slope-intercept form, we have y by itself. Our fraction in front of x is a negative 8 over 3. Our y-intercept, negative 12 divided by 3, is negative 4. So the negative 4, remember, is my y-intercept. That's the constant. So go on the y-axis to negative 4 and place a point. Again, my slope being negative means my line's going downhill. If I have the negative with the 8 as my rise, that means go down 8 and right 3, but I can't go down 8 and right 3. I don't have enough room on my grid. So remember, we can do the opposite of down 8 and right 3. We can go up 8 and left 3. So from this point, I can go up 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, left 3, 1, 2, 3, and I see I have a point that was on my other line as well. So even though I can't go up 8 and left 3 again and stay on the grid, I've already found the point that they have in common. It's this point right here. So my solution, remember, is a point, so you're going to put it in parentheses. The x from the origin, I have to go left 3, so my x is -3. My y, I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, so that y is +4. That's the point -3, 4. Then I can draw my lines. That was the second line, downward because it has a negative slope. And here was my first line. I'm putting arrows at the end because it's going on forever, and also had a negative slope. It's going downhill, and that's the point they had in common. Remember to always check your point in both equations. So in the x plus 3y equals 9 equation, I'm going to replace the x with -3. I'm going to replace the y with 4 and make sure that that makes a true statement. Well, I'd have -3 plus 3 times 4 is 12, and -3 plus 12 is equal to 9. Now in my second equation, 8x plus 3y equals -12. I'm replacing again the x with -3 and the y with 4 and making sure that makes a true statement. Well, 8 times -3 is -24. 3 times 4 is 12, and -24 plus 12 is -12. So it works in both equations.